So if you've been following along with either my videos or my programming or my mentorship, you probably hear me talk about hamstrings, right? You probably hear me talk about hip tuck, right? And a lot of this comes back to this idea of, starting proximally, right? The orientation of my proximal segments, right? Meaning close to my midline, right? Or my axial skeleton, which is my rib cage, my spine, or my pelvis, right? Dictates what's happening distally, right? It dictates what's happening at my shoulder, at my elbow, my wrist, at my hip, my knee, my ankle, right? So by restoring or optimizing orientation in my proximal segments, right, I'm gonna be in a better position to move, perform, have increased movement options or opportunities if I'm someone that's dealing with pain, or I'm looking to be more efficient in my performance. And one of the things the hamstrings are gonna be able to do, first of all, they have a lot of real estate, right, on my ischial tuberosities, right? And a proximal pull on that ischial tuberosity is going to create a posterior tilt of the pelvis, or an isometric contraction is going to keep the pelvis fixed in an anti-anterior rotation movement. So when we're asking someone to do an exercise and we're asking, hey, where'd you feel that? Do you feel their hamstrings? Really what we're looking for, we're trying to understand if this person is actually in a position where they are in an anti-anterior rotation position of the pelvis. Okay? So the hamstrings anchoring down the pelvis are going to prevent the hips from tilting forward, and subsequently probably prevent the lumbar spine from extending, and probably additionally prevent the rib cage and thoracic spine from extending. So the hamstrings have a big role. And again, that's very simply put, but a demonstration of this, again, could just be in supine, where we like to start, a lot of people learning how to understand this concept where, just pressing your low back to the ground isn't enough, right? We can press low back down just by squeezing abs, right? Great, okay, low back's on the ground, now what? When we're starting to talk about position of the actual pelvis and the anonymous, right? What I want to start thinking about here is if you were to take your heels and try and pull them towards your butt, or try and pull your body towards your heels. So when you see me do that, you see that there's some give there, right? My entire body's moving, right? So you're taking the slack out of the skin and maybe gliding some fascia. So in this position, let's say I think about bringing my belt buckle towards my face. So that's like my posterior pelvic tilt. So when I do that, my low back goes to the ground. I'm gonna try and keep my stomach calm so I'm not using my rectus or my abs through this. And now what I want to think about is pulling my heels towards my butt. Right, when I pull my heels towards my butt, again, I'm emphasizing this posterior rotation, but I'm also starting to feel some burning or some fatigue in the backs of my legs, right? And that lets me know that my hamstrings are operating to actually pull me into a posterior rotation or to resist anterior rotation. Now again, what I can do, depending on where I'm at, maybe I can bring one leg up and now I have a unilateral bias, right? I can do some marching here. I can bring my toes up and now I can dig my heels in, right? Now I have options from here. I can work on curling my pelvis up here, right? And not reaching hip extension without reaching lumbar spine extension. And again, the idea there is, hey, can I transfer that concept over to something, I don't know, like a hip hinge, where I'm trying to resist my low back and my hips arching, hamstrings and anterior core is going to be responsible for that, but also, a squat pattern, right? Where traditionally we see this overextending of the low back and of the hips. Hey, can I use my hamstrings? Can I get my center of mass back? Right, to now move into a squat where I'm having some control of my pelvis via my hamstrings and that posterior tilt. So again, why hamstrings? Hopefully that covers a little bit why we want to get them, why we want to feel them, and how, and again, most importantly, what that ends up doing to the pelvis position, and upstream, the rib cage.